Welcome back. Whereas you heard him, Mr. Onyekachi Ubani, the former MBA chair, Ikeja, and former second vice president of Nigerian Bar Association. Thank you for coming on this morning. Good to see you again.
Good morning.
You know, listening to that comment while the CGN was through his rep was talking about certain things, and the component or the part where he spoke about cases being determined on their merit. Now, ordinarily, that wouldn't be an issue, but to the extent that he mentioned it, it raises a lot of concern. It suggests that previously or at some point there might have been cases, or there may have been cases that were determined not based on merit. And now that we're approaching the elections, we know how cases will flood the courts. Can the judiciary stand the test?
Well, they have always stood the test.
Always? So,
yeah, over
so what
time.
is he saying then?
No, what he was trying to say that is important. We re-emphasize the function of the judiciary, that matters must be decided on its merit. Very critical. And of course, that is the role that the judiciary plays in any society, and we have had electoral issues determined by the courts. You remember that even Oshomele, currently the chairman of APC, was once a beneficiary of a very sound judgment of the court that reinstated him, having been given the mandate by the people. We have had issues of governors also, whose cases were determined by the judiciary. So he was re-emphasizing and then informing them that this is your responsibility to ensure that there is no external influence, that you look at issues on his merit and determine them on merit. And if anyone has an issue with the decision you have given, of course, there are appellate options available.
But there are those who say that some of these comments are fueled or predicated, rightly or wrongly, on the impression that some people have in the society that judges or justices or judgments, I beg your pardon, in most cases or some cases, goes to the highest bidder.
Well, there has been that notion. We are not ignorant of the fact that there are some bad eggs in the judicial sector. And the system has always made provision to sanitize it. The NJC over time has been taking those that are bad out of the system. Now, you cannot, because of few bad eggs, condemn an entire institution. That would be very, very wrong and unfair.
I know what you say about a little fly.
Yeah, I agree with you. The impression people give about judicial system in Nigeria because of the few bad eggs that, oh, the judicial system is easily compromised, is corrupt, and all that.
Is that not the case?
It's a very wrong impression. Because the judiciary over time, even in Nigeria, has this internal mechanism of cleansing itself.
Does it work?
It works. There have been judges who have been suspended. We have had issues of judges who were even dismissed instantly for acts of corruption. The most important thing for any person that has any issue is to report and then have your facts. Well, sometimes it's difficult to prove cases of bribery because it's not done in the open. And so if you want to make an allegation against any judge, you must have all the facts, because any spurious allegation cannot in any way, become evidential, helping to probably take a judge out of the system. So what we're saying is that if you have any information and that information is accurate and correct, you pass it to the appropriate authority, and they have always been there to sanitize the system. So making a blanket allegation because of few elements in an institution may not be fair to that particular institution. We have had issues, no doubt about it. Even the CJN will agree that there is some level of corruption in the system. But it is wrong for you to use few individuals to make a blanket condemnation and say the Nigerian judiciary is completely corrupt, easily compromised and all that. That cannot be a correct judgment.
But if you look from 2015, for instance, to date, and look at the cases of corruption against judicial officers, would you say that there has been adequate cleaning, or would you say we have moved from point A to point B? Can you quantify it in that terms?
I can. I'm a practitioner, and I have been a chairman of a particular branch, and then even serve at the national level. I'm in tune, and I know what goes on in the judicial sector. I tell you, it's getting better. In the issue of corruption, at every given opportunity, the heads of the court have always said it by way of warning, by way of advice, that the judicial officers must ensure that they avoid corrupt practices. They not only stop there, they also make sure that, look, if from the giving side, and that is the legal practitioners, if there is any issue, because the giver and the taker are usually implicated. They say, look, judges and lawyers must avoid the issue of giving and taking bribe. They keep on sounding it, but if there is any proven case of corruption against any judge, the NJC has been very prompt, to my own knowledge, with the cases that have been reported, with evidence, taking care of it, either by way of suspension or outright dismissal.
But is the weight not too much on the judges?
The weight?
Yes.
What weight?
I mean, the expectations from the nation and from people around, are they not heaping too much blame and weight on the judges?
The point is that for you to be a judge, it's a very onerous responsibility, sacred one at that. Apart from God Almighty, judges are the second set of human beings, or people that can determine destiny, life and death. So it is an onerous responsibility. So whoever wants to be a judge must understand that onerous responsibility. So whatever weight,
seeing that they're taking on that, it's a voluntary thing.
That's right.
So seeing that they're taking
voluntary
it on, to some extent, somewhat voluntary. I mean, I make a choice.
You agree to be.
If one decides to take on that onerous task,
that's right.
Are the equipment and the environment needed to do that task effectively?
A different discussion entirely. I agree with you. We have issues with the judicial system, in terms of funding, in terms of the basic infrastructure, the conducive atmosphere under which they work, even issue of salaries and allowances.
What about appointment of judges?
Even recruitment process.
How much are they paid?
That is not within my knowledge, but I know
how much are the judges paid?
That is not within mine. I can't.
What about the Supreme Court judge?
Yes, they earn something that is reasonable. But
what do you mean by
it wasn't good.
Reasonable? How much?
It's something that is reasonable.
So they are vulnerable to bribery then?
Well, that is another issue. You see, as I said earlier, if you want to talk about judiciary, let's take a holistic look at the judicial system. Look at their problems. Part of the problem is funding, issue of welfare, issue of basic infrastructure. In the world today, what is obtainable in judiciary is ICT. The recording system, the telecommunications and all that. I mean, the gadget you're using is not issue of longhand. Our judges are still writing with longhands. And immediately they leave the judiciary, they run into problem. So we must make sure that we fund our judicial system and make sure that they're independent in all ramifications, in all its ramifications, which is actually what is missing now. It's a whole lot of discussion.
We'll talk about some of them, not all of them, when we come back in a moment. Join us again. Welcome back. We're talking about how to ensure the judiciary stand the test, especially as we proceed towards the 2019 elections. Mr. Ubani, you were talking about the challenges that the judiciary, the judges themselves have got in terms of equipment and manpower, and that since they can't speak, why don't they have spokespersons?
Well, the judiciary by law and by practice do not come out to speak openly.
The judges?
Yeah, the judges.
Well, in African countries, several countries have judges who have spokespersons. The British
system. Judges don't speak openly. That is the responsibility of the Bar Association.
The bar and the bench?
The bar.
The bar speaking for the bench?
Yeah, they must speak on their behalf. We must protect the rule of law. This issue of remuneration, the condition of service and all that, it is the lawyers that should be in the forefront in advocating for an improved system for the judiciary. Because by nature, by practice, they are not supposed to be seen speaking openly of such things.
So the lawyers are the ones that have direct contact with the judges?
No, they are the ones that have direct.
So if a judge is going to be, how do I put it now? If a judge was going to be compromised, who's the best avenue? Or what's the best avenue? The lawyer?
Well, the lawyer becomes a pipe. He's a giver. Most times they use the lawyers. They are more comfortable. But that's why we must also ensure that the practitioners themselves are men of integrity. Because when you are called as a lawyer to the bar, there are so many expectations also. You are a role model by virtue of the fact that you're a lawyer. So you are not supposed to compromise judiciary. You're not supposed to compromise the judicial system because justice must be very pure. And so if a lawyer does that, then he's compromising the judicial system, which will have a negative effect on the polity.